Hey, good morning. I'm Kyle Longacre, and I'd like to welcome everyone to our MontcoWorks NOW Industry Insight Series, episode number 1. We hope this to be an ongoing occurrence through this fall and during this time, and we've been looking forward to the opportunity to be able to chat with Montgomery County teachers, counselors, and students and administrators about changes that are taking place within industries here in Montgomery County. This Industry Insights series is something new. This is part of our work in the MontcoWorks NOW program at Montgomery County Intermediate Unit. We're the youth and young adult workforce service provider for Montgomery County. We also support the MontcoWorks Board, which is the Workforce Board of Montgomery County, in the Business Education Partnership Series. And these speakers and these events are part of that Business Education Partnership. It is our goal through these conversations that we can highlight, promote key industries, businesses, and nonprofits here in Montgomery County that are doing exciting things, that have opportunities for youth and young adults, and that we can be able to share out what some of the pathways that lead into these types of jobs, these types of careers are here within our county. This is difficult times to be able to do this here in a virtual environment, but it also will provide us quite a few opportunities to learn quite a bit. Our goal will be to record these series and have them available on a YouTube channel they'll be sharing out with participants. And for teachers and counselors that are available on this webinar, our goal is that you're sharing these with students when you have the opportunities, and even parents if they'd be interested. So there'll be a lot more to come. This is a new format for us, and we'll be learning through this process, but we're excited to get it started, and we'll go from there. So I'll turn it over to my colleague at MontcoWorks NOW, Hakim Jones. Allow him to introduce himself. You're muted there, Hakim. Sorry.
Sorry about that. Good morning, everybody. So I'm Hakim Jones. I am a MontcoWorks NOW career counselor. So I consider myself similar to a school counselor, but on the career side. And we work with teens and young adults as young as 14, as old as 24 years old. I've been in the realm of workforce over 10 years now, with a little bit of experience in truancy and home and school work in one of the local school districts. And I really enjoy the work. I enjoy helping folks build on their lives and find self-sufficiency.
Thanks, Hakim. And Hakim and I will be facilitating these events through this fall. And for our first of our Industry Insights, we're happy to welcome Andre Hardy. So Andre, do you want to introduce yourself?
Yes, good morning, everyone. My name is Andre Hardy. I'm a representative of the PA CareerLink of Montgomery County. I serve as a regional operations director, where I also provide leadership and oversight to the CareerLink system, not only in Montgomery County, but also in neighboring counties of Berks and Bucks. Very excited to be with you all today.
So before we get started in our overview for the counselors and teachers and for the students, we've been now, this moment in time, working and learning and surviving in the midst of COVID-19. For more than 6 months now, since the mid-March, we've seen amazing, disturbing, and just never before seen in our lifetime types of changes that are taking place. And just on behalf of our team, MontcoWorks NOW, Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, and the participants here, we just really want to pass along our support, encouragement, hope to teachers, counselors, students, administrators throughout Montgomery County. We know this is incredibly challenging times as you work to support your students, and we just thank you for all the good work that you're doing and keeping yourselves, your students, and our community safe. And we hope to continue to support you in the learning process during that time. And I'll let Hakim and Andre express any thoughts they have on this as well.
I mean, I think for me right now, just as I sort of look back in the last 6 months and see how sort of COVID has impacted not only the labor market, but also just the lives of a lot of people that we know and serve. I think opportunities to come together and just talk about how partnerships and programs are available to support the general public at large in these certain uncertain times, I should say, is really, really important. And really happy that the CareerLink can be able to come to you today and talk to you about some of the resources and things that we offer, in the hopes that it may be able to support you or someone that you may know.
And I'll piggyback off the gentleman. We've all had our lives uprooted these past several months. Being a workforce professional, we've always worked with folks from all walks of life, from the most vulnerable to sometimes the most successful. But in this case, everybody's been impacted, no matter where you are in life. So we enjoy having a partnership with our schools, and we enjoy being a bridge here in the community, which might also help educators better do their jobs.
Our MontcoWorks NOW program, we had a group of summer interns, and we have a second cohort of interns that are working right now. And Dr. Valerie Arkush, our county commissioner, chair of the county commissioners, joined us about a month ago. And her message to our interns and her message to us was one of hope, that this will be the generation that makes it through COVID-19. And for the rest of your lives and the rest of our lives here, we're going to have stories that we'll tell, that we will have barriers that we've overcome, but we also have to step up and be able to lead and realize the opportunities that exist and the challenges that exist and work together. Andre mentioned it in the collaboration, and it's something that from the commissioners to our workforce board, to Jenny Butler, our executive director of workforce, and to our team at Montgomery County Intermediate Unit, we strongly believe in strong collaborations to be able to help and assist us. And again, that's our encouragement here for all the participants that are on this call and that will be viewing this call as well. So I'll start things off here, and you mentioned, Andre, the CareerLink, and we are the youth workforce provider. We'll talk about that a little bit here, but what is your work? What is the CareerLink? What does this actually do, and what types of services do you provide for Montgomery County?
Sure. So the CareerLink is a sort of a state system of the public workforce system in the state of Pennsylvania. Primarily, the CareerLink works with individuals over the ages of 18 all the way up to, however long or however old you are. But we primarily work with adults, and Kyle and Hakim mentioned that they work with youth, so folks that are a little bit younger. What the CareerLink actually does is provide services that are sort of in line with reemployment and training to help individuals either re-enter the workforce, maybe because they have barriers to employment that have kept them out of the workforce for an extended period of time. Perhaps they were laid off, which is extremely common right now in light of COVID, and supplying individuals with resources to help them become re-employed through partnerships, career counseling, workshops, recruitment events with employers, labor market information, and also public access to computers to be able to do any job search or training related activities if you don't have the option of doing that offsite because of lack of technology needs.
Thank you, Andre. It's always appreciate the collaboration with you. And I want to remind our attendees that they can ask a question or make a comment at any point in time in our Q&A. As we get through this webinar, we'll be working to answer those questions as they come in. And I strongly encourage we want to hear from you, what you want to hear from us as well. So please contribute to that in any way that you can. Hakim?
Yeah, so I'll just kind of touch on what Andre said. For a perfect example, I returned home from college, and with a degree in public relations journalism, I didn't really know where I was headed. I just happened to live near a local CareerLink here in Norristown, and the first thing the counselor said was, well, you have a great writing background, you have a good communication background. There's a lot of social service related jobs that you might fit. It was a matter of weeks before they were able to connect me with a decent paying, good job based off of that interaction. So the CareerLink does meet people in all different circumstances, just to give you a little insight. So I'll just go over to Andre and just, Andre, we've known each other for some time. How did you get involved in workforce development, and what took you down this path?
So the interesting thing about workforce development is if you ever go to a career day, at least in my experience as a student or even now as an adult, you never hear anyone say that they want to grow up to be a workforce development professional. We're all transients from other sort of industries. And so for me, almost 10 years ago, I was working in construction, and I really didn't like the job, but it was kind of the first one offered to me right outside of college. So I took it until I sort of figured out what I was going to do. Probably could have used a CareerLink actually back then, Hakim, but I actually just had a conversation with my mom who let me know that if I wasn't happy, I needed to pursue something I was passionate about. And she talked to me about how she got into healthcare. And it actually turned out that my mother years ago, before CareerLink was branded as it is now, was actually a customer of the public workforce system. And what actually happened is she ended up meeting with a career counselor that put her into an associate's degree program. She leveraged that associate's degree program to help her get a supervisor job at a hospital. And that hospital job actually led to her buying our first home. And so and she was very passionate about the work that she did. So what she kind of let me know in the midst of me not necessarily liking what I do, that I needed to find something that I was passionate about. And it sort of just impacted me to the point where, you know, if someone did this for my mom, I think this is really rewarding work to be able to invest in time and resources into other people, because I know my family tree is forever changed for someone doing that for my family. So it kind of led me down a road of a workforce development career in which I started in a lot of different roles in the past couple of years, and sort of have worked my way up to a leadership role that has now regional coverage. So workforce development is not only something that I am very passionate about professionally, it has an impact on my life to this day personally, and is something I'm very excited to do for my career every day.
Yeah, Andre, thank you so much. Those personal stories are something that we continue to benefit from. My own journey with workforce was as a high school teacher for 12 years and as teaching world cultures, and I kept continuing to hear high school juniors and seniors unclear as to what their future sense of direction was. And then for 10 years as a school administrator, as an assistant high school principal, what we were seeing was that the more students were doing job shadowing, the more students were involved in career exploration, the more students were doing work-based learning, the more they engaged in their sophomore, junior, senior year of school, and they really had a sense of confidence and a sense of direction. So I think for our spark, for the youth and young adults, and for your work with adults and seeing the next step in the next direction, you know, that's where we find rewards in this work. It's not always easy. I mean, there's no doubt about it, and everybody has their own story and their own barriers that they're trying to work their way through. There's no doubt about it, as for ourselves as well. But I definitely find great joy in this work.
Yeah, if I can add, you know, I started my career down in Chester, Delaware County as an employment counselor. So I worked with adults who were trying to, you know, find jobs, who were trying to get into employment, some folks who were returning from incarceration, just a wide range of experiences. And then at some point, I mean, I've always worked with youth, and I said, you know what, this would be great if there was a youth workforce program. And, you know, by the grace of God, Montgomery County had a grant, a contract here in Montgomery County, and there's overnight a lot of youth workforce programs opened up, because not only do the adults need assistance, you know, but some of the students that we're in front of every day, they also have to help. They have to work part-time jobs. You know, I worked at a TJ Maxx when I was 15, 16 years old. You know, so we've all had jobs in high school, but if we didn't have those parents or those connections that would help us prepare for interviews and how to know what to wear, know how to behave and interact. I think many of the youth that we serve come from your school buildings and your institutions. And I'm just glad that the adult side also has a complement with youth.
Yeah, I would agree. I think one of the hugest things, just to really piggyback off what Hakim was just saying here right now, is prior to this, I also spent time working in a high school in Delaware County, and I got my master's degree in secondary.
God bless you, Andre.
Yeah, it was interesting. Notice I'm back in workforce, so much appreciation to all the teachers. But I say that because one of the things that we sort of talk about as educators is like the foundations of education and what really we're trying to do. And I kind of look at it from a standpoint now on the workforce side, is that every educator out there that is working with a student or a family, what you're in essence doing is teaching students the skills that are going to create a future workforce. I mean, that's sort of what it boils down to. If students can't read, write, do math, and do some of the things that we do in our jobs every day, our local future economy is in jeopardy, to be honest. And so the investment that teachers make in helping students not only learn those hard skills, but also soft skills are going to be really, really important for employers of Montgomery County and honestly our regional economy. So it's kudos to you for even tuning in and wanting to learn more about workforce development and how education is a huge partner of that.
I want to thank you, Andre. Thanks, Hakim. I want to shift a little bit to what we're seeing now under COVID-19. Again, I'll remind our attendees to ask any questions that you have, and we'll try to get them later on with this. But in terms of the business education partnership, what we want to try to do from the education side is share the business story, what's actually taking place, what challenges and opportunities that they're seeing. The macroeconomics for students that are listening to this is, a traditional macroeconomic full employment rate would be somewhere around 4%, 3.5% unemployment. That across the country, those that are able-bodied and able to work, you would not get that lower than that, generally speaking, according to macroeconomics, because people are always transitioning. Some people are moving from one job to another. So we went from January, February, early March, from a period of 3.5% very low unemployment within Montgomery County and across our region. And then we saw that from mid-March to 2020 up through early May, 11, 12, 13% unemployment. Just a dramatic shift that we have never seen before in our lifetimes. And not since the Great Depression have we seen this type of level of increase. And that would have taken years to get to this type of rate. Now, we've seen some progress back with that. But Andre, I'd like to put it to you to see, what are you seeing it from the CareerLink, from your team, from how you're processing through what that really looks like, with the lens of the students and the teachers here. What's happening? What's going on?
A lot. This is the short version, but I'll sort of expand upon that. Kyle, to your point, Montgomery County historically had the second lowest rate of unemployment in the state of Pennsylvania after Chester County. And we sort of saw that unemployment rate triple and in some instances quadruple to, last I heard, around 11 and 12%. And what that sort of translates to is that last check, there were about 45 to 50,000 unemployment claims, specifically in Montgomery County, going through the unemployment system every week. And so what that sort of brings up is, I think people are now understanding that some industries are probably, for the long term, you have to look at an approach with some level of caution. And so, and those industries that are hit the hardest, that we kind of all know them right now, are really jobs that require people to sort of be outside of their homes, mainly specifically in food service, hospitality, and retail are kind of hit the hardest right now. And it's not to say that those careers aren't bad, but you kind of have to look through them through a certain lens. I think a lot of people too right now, Kyle, are also trying to use this time to not only make sure that they are safe and that their families are healthy, but also trying to figure out what their next step is. Some people do not want to go back to those industries because they've been laid off. And so there's an opportunity for us to work with folks who have been laid off and help them perhaps choose another career that has more stability and more financial security, no matter what may come their way in the future. And then there are also some other folks that really love what they do and they can't wait to go back. They just don't know when. And so I'd say right now, the last that we've sort of counted, we had about 30,000 interactions with customers since March on a wide range of different topics, a lot of that having to do with unemployment. And folks are honestly collecting unemployment, which obviously is a huge prerequisite. But in our experience, Kyle, until in your hierarchy of needs, unless you have food, water, shelter, clothing, those sort of things, a lot of folks have not had the opportunity to sit down and really think about their professional futures. But now we're starting to see more engagement with our career counselors about what that can look like and how we might be able to assist folks re-entering the workforce, perhaps in another career field.
Yeah, go ahead, Hakim.
Oh, yeah, I was going to touch on it from the youth perspective. We got some data on how many of our young people between the ages of 18 and 24 have applied for unemployment, and those numbers are pretty high as well. One common theme we learned is that many of the students who apply for unemployment in that age range, their highest level of education completed was the 11th grade. So, sometimes when your unemployment rate is as low as 3.5%, sometimes 4%, it's actually a great thing for the economy, but there are times where students choose work over education. And when wages are low, when the unemployment is low, the wages seem to raise a little bit higher too. So kids are enticed to go make $13, $14, $15 an hour if it means putting school on hold or not returning to their GED. So I think that's a challenge as workforce counselors and teachers and school professionals that we have to really work with our youth, because just because it's a great economy and the employment rates are low, we still have to focus on that main goal of getting a diploma and ultimately, post-secondary education.
I'm thinking of the middle school students and high school students. Career counselors and guidance school counselors will be sitting down with you, and traditionally in a face-to-face environment and in certain career exploration classes, there's an opportunity to be able to look at what your interests are, what you believe your strengths would be. You might do different types of online surveys to see what they would look like, and then it would identify certain types of careers. You like to work with people, you might be in healthcare, you like to work with things, and you might be looking at manufacturing, and you like to work with numbers. It may be the accounting and the financial management side of things. So that's the interest side of it. But now we're adding on top of it what you were saying, Andre and Hakim, is that some of these jobs are on hold for right now. There's certain industries that although there are some opportunities, and some opportunities will continue to increase, it's just keeping in mind that it's less and less of a window. And Andre, we use the language of high priority occupations in both youth and adult workforce, but how has that changed now within our area, with the COVID-19 pandemic?
Good question. So traditionally in Montgomery County, you've had a lot of high priority occupations that were thriving prior to COVID and will continue to thrive post-COVID, hopefully. But traditionally, those high priority industries or occupations have always been in healthcare, manufacturing, education, as you all know as educators, warehouse, logistics, and transportation, IT, finance, and retail hospitality. Now, sort of the downturn, I guess, as you will, is that retail and hospitality and food service right now are hit pretty hard, but those are going to be businesses that and services that people will need. You can certainly make a great career in those specific industries. It's just now I think people realize how susceptible they are financially and sort of working in those industries, and maybe either want to continue to do that work or want to find ways to leverage those experiences into other high priority occupations. Honestly, manufacturing, healthcare, warehouse, transportation, and logistics are probably the biggest three, and probably have the most longevity that a lot of people can get into without having an advanced degree or 4-year degree or 6-year degree, unlike finance or IT or education that requires certain skills or levels of education, and more so have a sort of longer career path. So right now, it kind of really just depends, as folks are sort of evaluating what their next step is to where they're willing to make a time investment in terms of their education. And if they're willing to do that, what particular occupation makes the most sense for them, so that if there is, and God forbid, there is another sort of situation like this, they have more financial security in their current job than maybe they had in their former.
Let's dig into that warehouse and logistics just for a little bit here. I mean, we see this kind of every day, and we talk about it a little bit, but I want to take it for granted. What do we mean by that? So I know that there's warehouses around here. I know that up in Lehigh Valley, there's a huge amount of warehouse complexes, King of Prussia, and so on. But why the boom in this area right now?
So Montgomery County is one of the largest manufacturing hubs in the state of Pennsylvania. I think that only Lehigh County is like sort of the biggest rival in terms of manufacturing, and in terms of like the gross product that is made in Montgomery County. And with that, I mean, if stuff gets made, it has to be shipped, right? So that's kind of like the easy way to understand why manufacturing, logistics, and warehousing are so important. If stuff gets made, it has to be stored somewhere and it has to be delivered to someone else. And sometimes that is not all handled by the same entity. Another reason that you see logistics being so important is because of the biomedical field in Montgomery County. You have a lot of different employers that are in that space. And because of that, especially in light of what's going on in healthcare with trying to find treatments, preparing for flu season, vaccines, all these different things that we hear on the news, to be able to manufacture those products, get them shipped out logistically and have them arrive where they're supposed to go, there's going to be a long-term demand in those particular areas as well. It's sort of bigger than just sort of driving a forklift, which I think most people associate with working in a warehouse. There's other components to that have a lot of specialty skills and trades that go into making the manufacturing industry itself sort of keeping the wheels turning on that industry by being able to store and ship product really all over the country and all over the Commonwealth.
Yeah, if I can add, just had a young man not long ago. I did have a truancy background working in a local school district. And this is a young man who dropped out of school, but eventually he got back on track and got a GED. And then he said, I got to go to work. He wasn't interested in college right away. He was interested in a CDL, a commercial driver's license. One thing I told him and what the program told us is that you got to be willing to, one, study, pass a drug test, and 3, be willing to get multiple endorsements. So this young man went through a 4 to 6 week program at North Montco. He got his CDL license, and he couldn't find. There were so many jobs out there for him that he pretty much was, he couldn't. He was on top of the world. So he actually landed employment with a great company, great benefits, great salary. And you would think a kid who was on the verge of dropping out of high school, he'll have no college debt. He will make a great wage. He still lives locally. And I think that field alone, commercial driver license, and what the company told him too, they said, look, I know you're not finished your specific endorsement, but we have many jobs within the warehouse that you can do until you get that endorsement. And once you get that endorsement, we're going to throw you in a truck right away because we can't find drivers. So that's just an idea. The CDL has been a really big push for young people.
If I could just add to that really quickly, I just wanted to highlight that the CareerLink does have funding available based off of eligibility requirements to help folks that are unemployed or underemployed be able to earn credentials like a CDL, like a nursing's license, or any other sort of specialty in IT. So if you don't have a skill and don't want to sort of go the route of paying out of pocket for certain educational costs so that you can earn a credential to land yourself in one of those high priority occupations, please consider contacting and working with your local CareerLink about what that could look like. There are some options out there that we work with a lot of training providers, and we have connections to a lot of employers. But sometimes the biggest hurdle is getting folks into school, getting school paid for, and then supporting individuals in completing their program so that they can come out and earn a life and family sustaining wage in an area like a CDL.
Yeah, I think that's one thing that we, as a workforce board, we continue to watch in previous economic downturns. Now, again, we're thinking 2008, 2009. When you see higher unemployment, you oftentimes see the enrollment in higher education go up. You see enrollment in training programs go up. And Andre, what you're sharing there and what Hakim is sharing is that between our youth and adult programs, we're able to support that. And the federal government and the state have allocated quite a few dislocated workers, quite a bit of money for that type of training. So we're sharing this with teachers, counselors, and students as you have family members, parents, nephews, cousins that are working through unemployment. Let me walk it through that question to you, Andre, and then to Hakim. If I'm a adult participant coming into the CareerLink, I've been now unemployed. It does not look like my job is coming back. What does my journey look like as an adult? And then Hakim, I'll ask you then as well, what does a youth participant look like as to walk through our processes?
So what would happen is that you would contact your local CareerLink, and what we would do is set you up with just an orientation. Right now, a lot of COVID, we're doing a lot of services remotely, but we are able to take appointments in person at our Montgomery County CareerLink location, which is located at the Human Services Building at the intersection of DeKalb and Fornance in Norristown. What would happen is that we would give you an overview of the CareerLink and then have you work with a career counselor who would administer to you a skills assessment based off of your interest and background, and that would sort of help us determine we call them 2 different tracks. Whether you're, which will lead us to developing an individual employment plan for you. So you would tell us what your goals are, we would administer an assessment, and then based off of your individual employment plan, our career counselor would tell you, well, you can actually go on a job search right now. You have everything that this industry needs locally for us to be able to find you a job. Or if that's not the case, we'll be able to develop a a training partnership with one of our local providers to perhaps put you in a post-secondary educational program that could lead to a credential and then assist you with job search thereafter. We would also do a barrier assessment to figure out if there's any particular reason or things that you have going on in your life that are precluding you from entering the workforce, or perhaps if you've had a lot of instability with jobs, perhaps that if there's something long-standing in your particular background that we need to help you work through so that you are able to have long-standing employment. And then once sort of those things happen, you will have the support of a career coach every step of the way from start to finish.
Thank you, Andre. And on the youth side, there's actually a great question around the CDL. I'm going to read it. I think some students are concerned with getting their CDL because they think truck driving might be automated in the future. Do you see this as true? And how would they transition to a new career with that skill if that were the case? In other words, what are associated jobs? My knowledge of working with young people when they want a CDL, one, they've learned that the wages, once you have a CDL, are pretty strong. The companies that hire have endless opportunities. And also there's the entrepreneurial spirit that most people that realize if they get their CDL, they can drive anything from a bus to a tractor trailer to a tow truck. And they also know that they could, some folks are buying their own cabs and their own trucks themselves, and they're becoming independent contractors. So I could work for UPS during the day, and then this township might need me to haul dirt during the evening. So I think a lot of youth see the money and the opportunity that fall with the CDL, but they also know that they might not have to wear a shirt and tie every day, and they can be comfortable and they can travel. So I do think CDL is attractive, but it is a commitment. And I think the biggest commitment that our students need to understand is that you're going to have to go through a 6-week training of education, and then you're going to have to go through another several weeks of actually driving behind the wheel and learning how to drive a stick shift and a manual, and I think ultimately they're going to have to pass that test. So it does look great, but you have to work through it. Automation, I think Kyle might have a good answer for the automation.
Yeah, I think that's just again context for counselors and teachers and MCIU. We've been able to do teacher in the workplace and go out and visit many of the companies in Montgomery County and really see firsthand what this has looked like. And as Andre was sharing, remember, Montgomery County is a very large food producer. There is many meat production companies that are located within Montgomery County. There's bread, there's chocolate production. So this food production is being created here and being shipped all around the country, all around the world in some cases. And so the CDL, the transportation side of it, whether it be in the warehouse and the forklift and the lowboy types of jobs, to the trucking, to the logistics side, is huge. It continues to be a strong area. What we are seeing is automation, which is, in some of the manufacturing facilities, we're definitely seeing more robotics. We're definitely seeing more automated transportation systems, conveyor systems. But that's another strength of Montgomery County is we make those conveyor systems. We make those packaging systems. We have many different manufacturing locations that need computer programmers, need the mechatronics, the hydraulics, just the logistical programming systems that go into developing these. And again, this is where one of Montgomery County's strengths, and it has been and will continue to be, is we produce those for our manufacturers here with Montgomery County, and we ship our conveying systems and so on all over the world as well. So this is something that these companies continue to hire and continue to need support. And even as we shift to automation, we're seeing that the work being centralized here within our county. But we got to know how to access it, and we got to have the high level of skills to be able to be ready to go with these types of careers.
Yeah, 1,000%. So kind of the takeaway from that is as industries adapt to trying to figure out what their life is going to be and their work looks like after COVID, some of these opportunities that existed prior to COVID may not be there afterwards. And that's okay. It just means that as the labor market shifts, our job as workforce development professionals and you as educators are to make sure that the public knows that, prior to COVID, this was a big high priority occupation in the county. But in light of that, since things have switched over, because we may not need as many as people in this particular area of a warehouse or a hospital. If everything is going to be automated, IT is going to be really big. Machine operation is going to be very big. So it's not that jobs will be eliminated so much as the skills for different jobs are going to evolve. And that's sort of where it comes into play about guidance counselor, career counseling, and having partnerships like the ones between MontcoWorks NOW and the CareerLink to make sure that our adults and youth know those local workforce trends, and then make the conscious investment to figure out what you need to do and accomplish to be ready to go to market in terms of selling your skills and talents to local employers.
Yeah, and I would touch on the young person right now, just exactly what we're doing now. Technology with Zoom and Microsoft Teams, GoToMeeting, Google Meet. Young folks aren't 100% comfortable. They love being in front of the camera, and they love FaceTiming when it's convenient amongst their peers. But I just read an article this morning at one of the school districts that majority of the youth do not want to be on camera during their remote learning. So I think our program as youth workforce, we've been really pushing the idea of educating students that this is the now, this is the current, this is the trend, this is what's happening. And kids and young people and even adults, we're going to have to learn how to get better in front of this screen, because it will, for them, it will amount to money. It will amount to jobs. We've watched professional sports take a dive, and before you know it, everyone was doing Zoom. We watched talk show radio hosts from their living rooms. We watched the news. So I think we're trying to promote to these kids as well that it's uncomfortable and it's new, and even amongst ourselves, but it's something we need to learn, because there's a market now for this whole digital platform. It saves companies money, but it also earns companies and people money.
Andre, what are you seeing on the construction side? That's been one of our high priority occupations, and it's one of the industries that was shuttered temporarily at the beginning of COVID. Are we seeing that pick up again, or what's that look like?
Yeah, absolutely. So if you remember back to the spring, there was this mandate about, essential businesses that were sort of open and shut down. And actually construction was one of the first ones that actually came back, I believe the second or third week of May. So right now, I'm sure you've seen it traveling all over Pennsylvania. No matter where you go, there's road work, right? That's a form of construction. And I think a lot of people right now are starting to figure out in their sort of buildings, as folks return to work, there may be some folks or some companies looking at how to do interior redesigns to make sure that their offices and workspaces and locations are more safe and secure than they were in light of what's going on with the pandemic. So you will see sort of an uptick in that, and I think that is something that will continue. One of the things that obviously in an economy that happens sometimes is that a lot of folks don't move. Coming from a construction background, I was always taught that if you could glue it, staple it, or nail it back together, it was good. And you're going to start to see that again as companies don't have sometimes the resources or the money to be able to move. What's going to be just as important is skilled trades to be able to maintain facilities and systems that people already have, so that people do not have to build things brand new, or people do not have to move staff from one location to another. So taking the time to understand facilities management or a specific trade that a work site or an office or workplace may need to be able to make it more safe and accommodating for employees is just sort of the construction industry adapting to the current times.
Thanks, Andre. And another question for Hakim here, and this is just going back to economics here as well. We've seen some stimulus money come in terms of unemployment. We've seen the county and the state being able to pump out some mini grants to businesses and nonprofits. There's been several cycles for economic development. But ultimately, how do small businesses stay in the game or not stay in the game during these very difficult periods? And how can the local consumer, meaning for youth, for parents, for teachers and counselors, how can we continue to support Montgomery County local businesses during this time?
Sure. I think some of the folks hardest hit are the local small business. We watch on the news all the time, whether it's a restaurant, a salon, or a barber. Many of our local businesses were hit. And with all the CARES Act money and the different resources that came down, what I learned is that it was the early bird catches the worm. And in some cases, the better connected got the resource. So I know personally of folks that really jumped on it. They knew exactly what to do and what applications to fill out, and they received, 30,000, 40,000, some, whatever they needed. And then I know a large amount who really were just behind the eight ball and didn't have the education, who missed out. So the money only goes so far, but the more that we can support our local economy, and I think of a community like Norristown that doesn't have as much, it doesn't have as much retail and grocery and things that other townships have. I think you do have to be mindful that what you put into your community, ultimately impacts, the bottom line. But unemployment and the different resources that came through has also, in my opinion, been a double-edged sword, where we are really trying to push our youth to get back to work. We do have young people who were working and they enjoyed their jobs and they were making, a couple $100, but, now with unemployment, they were actually receiving a little bit more benefits. And, the education piece is crucial. You have to tell these kids that, it's temporary and it's not going to last. And really, you need to get back to work. So we as career counselors too have heart-to-hearts with our kids. I'm sure you guys do as educators and teachers. You have to be reality-based, because this is not going to be a forever thing. And the kids have to go back to work. They have to build their work ethics. And if they want to climb the ladder and be successful, they can't continue to, stay home.
I think a good linkage to that, Hakim, is, a lot of people don't know about it, but there's a whole business services team that works at the CareerLink that works with local employers and does an assessment of needs. What we're finding is that a lot of employers that are struggling want to take advantage of different services, one of which is the on-the-job training program. It's an opportunity where we connect with local businesses who are perhaps struggling to find talent or can't find someone that is the complete package and what they're looking for in terms of a hire. And what we do is partner with that employer and split some of the cost of the wages and the training of that individual to bring them up to speed, so that an employer does not have to sort of front the cost. I think we've seen now with the PPP program that is sometimes very difficult for some employers to maintain payroll for new hires. And so what the CareerLink is able to do is to help offset some of that cost and also lead to someone having employment at the same time. So again, to Hakim's point, it's really just about education and having people understand the services and funding that's out there, so that people know, to take advantage of it when their circumstances dictate that they need to.
One last industry I'll talk about is healthcare as well. And again, many of the initial cases that we were seeing and many of the, unfortunately, the fatalities that we were seeing here within Montgomery County and around Pennsylvania and around the country came from our adult senior centers and from our residential communities. And again, Montgomery County is home to many outstanding communities, and our frontline workers there, the nurses, the resident assistants, the CNAs, the food service individuals that were working there, were really feeling a sense of loss and difficulty during that time. So that is one area of healthcare. Are we seeing healthcare pick back up as well, or how has that changed during this time?
So when healthcare first started off in the pandemic, I think we all knew that folks were essential. And I think what started to happen is that there were sort of like tiers of who was essential and kind of who wasn't. Because when we stopped having sort of these non-elective procedures and surgeries, there were some ancillary staff who unfortunately were laid off because folks weren't coming in to have procedures, and hospitals and medical facilities weren't able to bill insurances. And so it was just kind of made sense, I guess, from an economic standpoint, from their standpoint, to just let people go. Now that a lot of hospitals and medical facilities are starting to change, and you're starting to see an uptick in a lot of non-essential procedures starting to happen again at hospitals, and hospitals picking up their capacity from 50% to 75% to 80% and beyond. I think you are going to see a huge sort of push for people to come back to healthcare in a lot of different roles. They may not necessarily be in the forms of nurses, but there could be ancillary staff. Kyle, to your standpoint, you could work in food service, could work in environmental services, you could work in administration, all these sort of industries, jobs that are within a hospital that I think people don't realize. You think hospital, you think nurse, you think doctor, you think surgeon, but there are so many moving parts that happen in a hospital to make it go round. And those particular jobs and areas of focus are now starting to come back more than ever, since there's going to be more people to be able to come in a hospital, since it was at the height of the pandemic.
Yeah, and I'll touch on Andre. I'll piggyback. When I think of that young person who was uncertain about their future, but they want a decent paying job, they want good hours, they want accessible transportation. We had two young people, actually a brother and sister combination locally, that found employment at an Einstein hospital. Is it going to be their forever job? Maybe not, but the fact that they're in a large scale hospital like that, they will have, there was one thing I learned about the hospital setting is that there's a lot of mentors, there's a lot of educated folks. You might be serving the pizza every day, but you get to know that doctor who comes down stairs to get lunch. Hopefully he's not eating pizza. You, as an environmentalist, just if you ever visit the hospital with a relative or spend a couple of days there, me for my wife's childbirth, you see how connected the hospital culture is. And I see young people really develop in hospitals because there's always somebody that's either going to tip them off to the next big position in the hospital, or that's going to let them know, how to stay on track. So hospitals are actually good. And like I say, health is always a concern, just to make sure that your family's not vulnerable and that you have what you need to work in that setting.
Absolutely. Great networking opportunity to work in a hospital.
We mentioned this now a couple times, and I'll just encourage the attendees again, if there's any additional last questions that they want to ask, we're going to try to wrap up here in a little over 7-8 minutes or so. But I'll make the comment about safety during this time. We know it from the construction industries, we know it in manufacturing, we know it in healthcare. And the county, Montgomery County, has done an amazing job through very difficult circumstances to reduce the prevalence of COVID-19 infections, but there always is the concern that this would pick back up again as we continue to move forward. What is the encouragement and at the CareerLink facility and in our offices, what are we doing to make sure that participants, visitors, are safe, or what other types of virtual services are we providing as well? Hakim, and then, Andre, then Hakim.
So for right now, all of our services at the CareerLink are by appointment only. We're doing a lot, all of our services are either virtually or by appointment only. It's not sort of a free-flowing system like it once was, just so that we can sort of control the foot traffic in the center. So we are limited in terms of how many people we can serve in person per day. When you do come in, everyone is wearing masks. We're constantly wiping down workstations in common areas with sanitizer. In some instances, we're making sure, we have signage in the building to make sure that, folks are walking a certain way and that we're maintaining social distancing and encouraging people to wash their hands and use hand sanitizer. And a lot of our employers and businesses are doing the same thing because it's under the guidelines of the state. We want people to pursue and be able to find ways to be able to have sustainable employment and be able to support their family, but not put themselves at risk at the same time in the pursuit of doing so. So it's really a collaborative partnership in terms of the guidance that we get from the state and making sure that our spaces are accommodating and safe, and making sure that we're educating our employers about what they can do to keep their employees safe as well, especially if they're hiring employees from the CareerLink and bringing them onto their teams.
Yes, and there's another question about students looking for job shadowing, internships, and pre-career opportunities. COVID has impacted many of these opportunities, and in my opinion, and from what I'm seeing, it depends on the company. It depends on the type of work. We had many students who were doing their internships with retailers, and some of those retailers, by corporate standards, are not allowed to bring interns back. But you do have some more of the essential hands-on construction, hands-on related fields that might be flexible. So I think as a school professional, to stay in touch with us, because we are learning every day of the companies that are opening their doors a little bit more. But as far as training and education, students can always use this time to broaden their education. They're on the computers, they're at home. We have everything from OSHA training, which would already set them up for a job. We have everything from CPR first aid that can be done remotely or through video conference. And Kyle, you want to touch on maybe some other things that we're doing virtually?
Sure. Well, and our MontcoWorks NOW team, when in March and April, early April, this is for the counselors and the teachers and any students that are attending. We worked our philosophy off of a quote from Franklin Roosevelt from the midst of the Depression. If work is not available, then work must be found. You know, you got to kind of make it up a little bit. So we've always stressed work-based learning, but to recognize for young people that if they are participating in virtual learning during these times, then their afternoons and their evenings to be able to support their family, to be able to support a neighbor with odd chores, odd tasks that can be done. If there's work outside, obviously with masks and so on is safer than work inside. So as we go into colder weather, it might be lesser opportunities, but raking of leaves, shoveling of snow, all kinds of different, just work. Work is good. Work is good for our mental health. Work is good for exercise. Work is good for physical fitness. And in the meantime, you will be learning different types of skills to be able to have. So for counselors and for teachers, we got to continue to find creative ways to encourage these types of working opportunities, but then paying very close attention. And from April through May through June, that jobs do exist, and in many cases, companies are desperately hiring in grocery, in some of the manufacturing, in some of the other areas, transportation, logistics, like we talked about. They need youth and young adults to be applying for these positions and taking these positions, because that's part of our system. That's part of our keeping money moving, keeping the economy moving in our area. So we want to encourage that. Andre?
In fact, I just wanted to make sure that everyone knows, I know this is going to sound really weird. Now is actually a great time to find a job. A lot of what we're hearing from employers is that they have more jobs available than people they can find. And I think a large part of that has to do with the fact that some people, for whatever reason, just are collecting unemployment, and they're using unemployment as an opportunity to sustain themselves and figure out their next move. But unemployment has an end date. And some of the programs that are out here have an end date. The funding in some of these instances is not going to last forever, and it's not guaranteed. So right now, if you're looking for a job, you're competing in a much smaller market, and there will be more opportunities available to you. However, if folks wait too long to start looking for a job when unemployment is over, you're going to have to compete against every other person that was collecting unemployment with you. And then now the shift is going to be where the employer sort of can be more picky and choosy about who they take, because the candidate pool is a little bigger, whereas opposed to now, the candidate pool is smaller and the job opportunities are bigger. So if you are considering it, even if you work part-time, to sort of balance that with your unemployment, and you can look at the unemployment website to be able to talk about how you can work part-time and still collect your benefits. That is still a great opportunity for anyone to looking to get their foot in the door at a particular workplace or business, and also have an opportunity to have a competitive advantage right now in the winter before unemployment may dry up for some folks in the unemployment to find employment in the fall before unemployment for some folks dries up in the winter.
Yeah, and I think of a young man particularly who he had been working at a local McDonald's, and his wage was $8 an hour. He was working almost 35 hours a week. He is 18, recent graduate. He wasn't happy. You know, he was frustrated. He was spending a lot of money getting there on the bus. We saw an ad for Costco's, which was hiring as well. Costco's pays $15 an hour. He put the application in. And it was just a matter of time. He interviewed there just yesterday. So there are a lot of retailers with the holidays coming. Even though we're stuck in the house, and even though we're frustrated and we're not going to ball games, we're not going to sporting events, we're still shopping, and we're still, eating, and we're still ordering out. So Costco's basically said, hey, we need people yesterday. So, if you can get here on time, you can get along with everybody, and you can deal with challenging customers, we're ready to bring you on board. So hopefully he'll have to walk away from McDonald's on good terms, but the jobs are out there. I think the time is also important. So as an organization, we have the time as counselors to sit down and help kids navigate these applications. So if you have students that you think would be a good fit, Kyle, and we'll share our information.
Yeah, and I'll make one more comment here, and then I'll allow last word from Andre and Hardy here, and excuse me, Andre and Hakim. The just a couple of suggestions too, that work is still being done in many cases in a virtual environment. So for counselors and teachers, if meetings are taking place and for businesses, and a youth can be part of that conversation, they're added into the Zoom call and sit in and listening. It's a great opportunity for them to learn. My wife and I participated in a Saturday, it's mostly retirees on a COVID-19 medical, there's pediatricians, doctors, scientists, virologists, public health experts, and we're hearing these types of things. And we had our summer interns sit in on that call and got to interview a couple of the cardiologists. The guy that did the doctor that did the first heart transplant at Temple University was 80 years old and is on this call, and our student interns were able to interview him and talk with him. So there's great learning opportunities that can take place. We just got to be able to open the door and make sure that we have youth and young adults in these calls, in this virtual space, to the best that we can. The other thing to encourage as well is that a virtual environment allows us to bring in guest speakers from all over the country, all over the world. We've been partnering with a German partner on this that has been supporting our team on the apprenticeships and pre-apprenticeship side and some of the other processes that we're doing. And so it really can help us along. I just want to remind everybody again that this is our, this program, this MontcoWorks Now Industry Insights is going to be each Wednesday, 11 to 12. We're going to do the best that we can to try to line up speakers and companies that will reflect some of your interests and some of the high priority areas within our county. MontcoWorks is, we work, and our tourism board has always said Montco strong. And like I said, in terms of COVID-19, when it comes to food, water, and shelter here, Montco will produce it. And in terms of the vaccines and the science, our pharmaceuticals and everything else is one of our other strengths. We are going to continue to lead in our region, in our state, in our country. And we need a workforce that's able to do that. So this is an opportunity for our young people to be able to step up into these roles, and we're excited to be able to support you through these efforts. Final word from Hakim and then Andre. You're muted there, Hakim, sorry.
Yes, there was a question about for seniors and students who are towards the end of their high school careers, how they can connect with us. You know, if they are trying to find some career guidance or even alternatives to finish in school. I'm going to put our phone number in the chat, and I'm going to also put Renee Suter, who is our administrative assistant, in the chat. We are eligibility based. However, you know, if students aren't eligible, we still actively find resources in this area.
It's just really good, a really good opportunity to connect with everyone today. I do want to sort of stress the importance of, even though that the CareerLink may not be able to accommodate the foot traffic it once was able to in light of COVID, we're still able to support and assist people virtually. So, if you have an adult that is, you know, wants their resume critiqued, wants career coaching, is interested in going back to school for post-secondary training, or wants a job search, you know, there's a great way to connect with us. You know, I'll make sure that the contact information is sent out to obviously Hakim and Kyle, and they can share it. Hakim did put in the chat the general CareerLink website. You could search for by zip code and find your local CareerLink. It should give you a name and a contact number of a person that you can reach out to, and we'd be more than happy to serve and assist you and help you with whatever your professional and personal goals are.
And we are located in Norristown. Our building is open. If a family needs to have a face-to-face, we just ask that they wear a mask and they give us a call and set up an appointment. But either way, they should reach out to Renee Suter to make that next step.
All right. Well, I want to thank Hakim and Andre. We really appreciate being part of this call here today. And for participants, you should receive a follow-up survey with an email. If not, we'll send that off to you. And again, this webinar will be posted on YouTube. I'll be sending out the link for that recording as well. Hopefully your students are able to watch it. I'd like them to fill out a survey as well. Again, this is funded through Pennsylvania's Business Education Partnership Program, and we want to be able to provide good feedback and also answer your interest in other types of speakers. We set a hard stop here at 1 hour, and we are just over by 1 minute. So we appreciate you carving into the lunchtime hour. And again, it's been great for everybody to join us. Thank you all again. And let us know if you need anything from our end. Enjoy your day.
Bye, everyone. Thank you.
Everybody.